Hello, my name's Kelly Edwards, a psychologist and mindfulness teacher. It gives me great pleasure today to introduce you to your host and mastermind of the Uncovering Happiness Symposium, Elisha Goldstein. Elisha Goldstein is a clinical psychologist and co-founder of the Center for Mindful Living in Los Angeles. He's also an author and speaker who brings together traditional psychotherapy and mindfulness to achieve mental and emotional healing and happiness. Elisha has published extensively, and you might have seen some of his articles, chapters or blogs, including the best-selling books Uncovering Happiness, Overcoming Depression with Mindfulness and Self-Compassion, The Now Effect, How This Moment Can Change the Rest of Your Life, Mindfulness Meditations for the Anxious Traveller, and co-author of a mindfulness-based stress reduction workbook. He's also creator of the Mindfulness and Psychotherapy column at Psych Central and a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post and Psychology Today. He's also designed the breakthrough program Mindfulness at Work for emindful.com and co-developed the popular CALM, which is Connecting Adolescents to Learning Mindfulness program, with his wife and psychologist Stephanie Goldstein, PhD. He also speaks widely and facilitates numerous workshops. So you can see he's a man of many talents. It was a great pleasure interviewing him and supporting him in bringing this symposium to you. Hi Elisha, it's great to be here with you on the journey that is the Uncovering Happiness Symposium. Thank you for agreeing to be on the other side of the microphone this time.
It's going to be fun.
It is. Elisha, you've started every interview by asking your guest what their understanding or definition of happiness is. So I'm sure that people would love to hear what yours is.
Well, for me, happiness is really that internal sense that and confidence that no matter what comes my way, things are going to be okay. That I can handle it. In other words, people oftentimes think happiness is a sense of ease and calm and peace and these different things. And really what it is obstacles and difficulties are inevitable in life. And so it's the idea that when things come my way, I know that I can handle it so that I don't get so thrown off by it, and I'm able to kind of turn towards the good and savor, maybe and be grateful for all the things that I enjoy in life at the same time. So it's that core sense of confidence that things are going to be okay.
That's wonderful. And in your book and in all of the fabulous interviews that are part of this symposium, you've described many different paths to that sense of happiness that you've just described now. I know it's a big ask, but I'm just wondering if you could sort of summarize or capture for listeners now what the best path to happiness is.
Well, what I think has been elucidated really well in the symposium is that by a number of people, is that we all have these natural capacities for happiness, that core enduring happiness that kind of I had just mentioned. And they come in different flavors, and so we have to kind of tap into them. Like I loved when Tara Brach was talking about, and I talk about this in Uncovering Happiness, but when Tara Brach was talking about vulnerability and how it's so important to be able to turn towards vulnerability and be able to ignite the natural happiness component of compassion and self-compassion. And I loved when Dan Siegel was talking about the real importance of relationships and how to create kind of a sense of security within a relationship, because after all, we're not islands. That's so important. Ellen Langer, one of the key figures, Harvard professor, and had talked about the real importance of learning and creativity and play. All of these are critical factors in our happiness and well-being. Jack Kornfield did a fantastic job at talking about the essential component of purpose and generosity and altruism. And he's so fantastic in the way that he tells stories and kind of brings it all together. So all of these factors like mindfulness, self-compassion, compassion, purpose, play, learning, are all really key components of happiness. And, I couldn't have been more thrilled to have all these people on here. And I'll just mention one more person I think was fabulous, which was when Byron Katie got on and really talked about how we can be enslaved by our stories and our thoughts. And she gave a very simple process to be able to gain freedom from our thoughts and open up to the real goodness, the natural goodness that here.
As I listen to that, I'm just wondering, whatever made you decide to do this fabulous symposium in the first place? And what have you personally got out of it?
Well, I think, at some point along my path, I realized and recognized certain things that have been really supportive to me in my life, and have been always interested in connecting and collaborating with other people. I love learning from other people at the same time. And so in my own research, my own life, my own work with people, I came up with a number of things that I've found that are out there that can help us uncover that core enduring happiness. And I looked for specific people in the field that really talk about these different things. And I wanted them to elucidate, make them real for us. And I think that's what's been accomplished. And I want to reach as many people as possible to be able to hear this, really this kind of really practical wisdom from all these people. And so if I can give, and touch as many people as possible, and it's not even about me, it's about just the people being touched and igniting these ideas and practices in their life, that's a life well spent. And so here's like one thing en route that I can do to be able to support this world, make the world a better place in a lot of ways. And what was the second part of that question?
What have you enjoyed about doing this symposium with all these fabulous people?
Kelly, just sitting here right now, having you have me reflect on the whole process is bringing up a big smile on my face, because I just I've enjoyed this immensely. I love connecting with people and hearing from them and learning from them. And when some of these people are so funny too at the same time. Like Dan Harris, he's so smart and funny when he gets on that interview and he's kind of talking about a whole comical rise towards even finding mindfulness and compassion in his life. He talks about the little ass, like I don't know if I could say it over this, I guess, with the little a-hole in our heads, in some way, and how he kind of battles that and has grown so much from that. And there's actually a kind of a secret couple on this symposium that many people maybe even don't know that much about, but they're a little capsule of joy in here. This group, Improv HQ, that shows us directly, and you'll see it right over the interview, how to play in our lives, how to break free from unhealthy patterns through the aspect of play. And play, to me, is one of the hidden gems when it comes to uncovering happiness in our lives. As adults, we get too bogged down by things and we forget what it's like to play. And it's almost like we need to relearn. And there's a handful of people on here that really help us do that too.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because that was a really big takeaway for me personally from this symposium is, we are so driven and so achievement orientated and so very sincere and intense sometimes about our lives that play just doesn't get the part it deserves. And I really particularly loved the way you highlighted that and the offering that people made. I know that people who are watching your interview now may have listened to many of the interviews by now, so they may be feeling like they're coming to the end of this little journey. Where to for them from here?
Well, what I suggest is, learning never really ends. And so, I would suggest kind of going, you have these now. Go ahead and kind of rewatch these, because there's some things that you may have not even seen in them. Make sure you're kind of taking notes and see. A lot of people kind of watch things, they take in the practical kind of wisdom or advice or thoughts or ideas, and they get inspired. And that's really one of the wonderful things about symposiums and books and all these different things. But what I always ask people is, okay, so where have you applied this in your everyday life? I think that's the key. So what I always say is, you've gone through the symposium once, go through it again, and see where can I grab things from. Some of the wisdom of Christine Carter when she talks about how do you really find that groove at home and work. How do I really apply what she's talking about? In one aspect, she talks about the real importance of gratitude and how to actually make that a practice. How do I take that and bring that into my everyday life? Or when Jack Kornfield's talking about generosity and altruism, where am I doing that in my life, and how can I bring that into my life in the ways that he's talking about? Or when Rick Hanson's talking about taking in the good and installing it into our minds in particular practical ways, where am I doing that? And so then, as you bring that into your life, see what you notice. Treat it as an experiment, and let your experience be your teacher. That's really key. And obviously the book Uncovering Happiness supports all of this, supports the entire symposium. And so, use that as a reference and dive through that for a tremendous amount of ideas.